Okay, picture this. You're standing in your kitchen, staring at the oven, waiting for a fresh batch of chocolate chip cookies to bake. The timer says 12 minutes. But is that 12 minutes really what time is? Think about it. The real time, the event that actually matters here, is the raw dough transforming into those delicious cookies. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely rethink something you interact with every single second of your life. We're talking about time.
So what exactly does a clock measure? Look at it this way. You could spend an hour getting a cavity drilled at the dentist, or you could spend that exact same hour at a birthday party surrounded by your best friends. Now, your clock, it treats those 2 hours identically, just tick, tick, tick. But humanly, physically, they are fundamentally different realities, right? 1 hour brushing your teeth and 1 hour waiting to hear if someone you love is okay are just not the same thing. So if a clock is literally just tracking a repeated pattern like a pendulum swinging or a digital electrical pulse, what actually is time before we even start counting it?
Well, to figure that out, here's our roadmap. We'll look at why time is way more than a clock, uncover the ancient grammar of time, explore how the clock completely took over our minds, rebuild time from the ground up, and finally wrap up with Chronos, Kairos, and us.
All right, part one. More than a clock, breaking the illusion of duration. You see, modern folks, us, we just naturally assume time is simply duration. We treat it like this invisible, empty container measured by ticking hands, where random events just happen to fall inside. Today, we're going to completely dismantle that assumption.
And looking back across history really proves this point. For more than 3 millennia, from ancient biblical texts and Greek philosophy, right up to modern cognitive science and relational physics, time wasn't viewed as a stopwatch, not at all. It was actually understood as a structure of meaningful events, appointed moments, and ordered relationships. The concept of duration, the thing your smartwatch tracks, that was actually a much, much later abstraction.
Let's move to section 2, the ancient grammar of time, appointments, not just ticks. Ancient Hebrew and Greek cultures didn't just use different words for time. They literally had a completely different vocabulary for the passage of existence itself.
Take the book of Genesis, for example. When it says, "In the beginning," God isn't starting up a giant cosmic stopwatch to track a 40-hour work week. Instead, time is created through distinction, like separating light from dark. He places the stars in the sky to act as signs and for appointed times, or moed in Hebrew. And then you have the Sabbath, which isn't just mathematically the seventh day. It's a day intentionally set apart for sanctified completion. So this ancient grammar, it was entirely about profound, ordered encounters and appointments, not just counting seconds.
Now, as these Hebrew concepts moved into Greek culture, we get this absolutely crucial split in the language. On one hand, you've got Chronos. That's your measurable, sequential clock time. It just counts the sequence. But on the other hand, there's Kairos. Kairos is the appointed, fitting, or right occasion. It's the difference between saying, the cookies baked for 12 minutes, which is Chronos, and saying, the cookies are finally ready, let's eat, which is Kairos.
We see this beautifully in the New Testament. When Jesus says things like, "My hour has not yet come," or later, "My hour has come," he is definitely not checking a wristwatch. The Greek word used there is aura, and it acts like a threshold. It represents the exact moment when a hidden relationship or a long-awaited promise becomes fully accessible. The Apostle Paul does this too, talking about the fullness of time, or pleroma. He doesn't mean a magical hourglass finally filled up with sand. He means the story had finally reached the precise moment where a promise was ready to be enacted.
Which brings us to section 3, how the clock won, the historical inversion. Because honestly, if time used to be so rich, relational, and full of meaning, how in the world did we end up with this rigid, stress-inducing clock time that rules our entire lives?
Well, we went through a massive historical inversion. Think about it. In the older grammar, people looked at relations in nature to find the appointed event. Like, you knew it was time to harvest because the seasons changed and the crops were ready. But modernity completely flipped that upside down. We turned time into a blank mathematical coordinate, a grid, and decided that events merely happen inside of it. We stopped asking, what kind of moment is this, and just started obsessing over when exactly did it happen.
Now, to be fair, this inversion didn't happen by accident. Clock time won because it is wildly, undeniably useful. Isaac Newton gave us absolute mathematical time, which basically made physics possible. Then the Industrial Revolution hit, and we absolutely needed clocks to coordinate massive amounts of labor and train schedules so, they wouldn't crash. And today, our GPS and internet literally run on the atomic transitions of cesium atoms. Clocks are amazing, but we made a huge philosophical mistake. We accidentally let this incredibly handy measuring tool become our entire reality. We completely mistook the ruler for the room itself.
So let's jump to Section 4, rebuilding time from scratch, from the ground up. If clock time is actually just a tool, just a way of keeping score, let's empty time's pockets. If we strip away the clock entirely, how do we rebuild a true theory of time from scratch?
Think of these as the fundamental Lego bricks of reality. Before you can even count a single minute, you need distinct things that exist. You need those things to change, but they also have to persist enough to stay connected. You need some sort of ordering so they can be compared. And crucially, you have to have an observer, with memory to hold on to the past and anticipation to predict the future. By the time a clock even ticks once, the universe has already done all this incredibly hard work of making patterns and keeping them together.
And this thought right here beautifully anchors a reconstruction. As the philosopher Joseph Marshall noted, our concept of reality has to be dynamic. Time isn't just some empty, static container holding us hostage. It's a deeply dynamic, evolutionary process of our minds engaging with a reality that is persistently changing all around us.
Therefore, if we pull all this evidence together from history, theology, biology, and physics, we land on this definition. Time is the ordered relational accessibility across persistent change. I know that's a mouthful, but let it sink in. It is exactly the framework that allows people, memories, promises, and physical patterns to stay meaningfully connected as the world evolves. Duration is just the numerical comparison of those stable patterns, but this ordered accessibility, that is the true primitive reality.
All right, last section, number 5, Chronos, Kairos, and us, reclaiming your time. Let's bring this all the way down to Earth and see how this paradigm shift actually changes how you and I live every single day. Right now, at this exact second, your own brain is relying on this ordered persistence just to make sense of my voice. Think about when you listen to a song. You don't just hear a series of isolated, lonely beeps, right? You hear a melody. And that's because your brain holds on to the last note while anticipating the next one. Without this ordered accessibility, life would be a flowing, intelligible story. It would literally just be random, disconnected static.
I absolutely love this quote because it perfectly captures the whole shift we've been talking about. The clock tells you how long, time tells you what has become possible. The clock is just a scorekeeper, counting repetitions. It just tells you how long a thing took. But true time, it reveals the story that is unfolding right in front of you. It tells you what has finally become possible.
So the next time you look down at your watch or glance at the corner of your screen, I want you to ask yourself a question. Are you merely tracking the chronos, just following the ticking sequence of a schedule? Or are you actually awake to the kairos, the appointed significant reality of the moment you're actually living in? Clocks count numbers, but life tells a story. So, what kind of moment are you in right now?